Welcome back to the channel. Today the road takes us to Amsterdam. We're doing a river cruise. Come along with us. Again, if you haven't yet, please subscribe. Hit that bell, hit that like button, leave a comment. Let's check it out.
Please stay in your seat as much as possible during the cruise. You can use the toilet in the ship during the cruise. In case of an emergency, please follow the skipper's instructions. The skipper will point out the life-saving equipment and tell you when to leave the ship.
Don't want to leave the ship.
Situated next to the Adam Tower is the film museum called The Eye, which first opened in 2011. The architects of the building wanted to make it look like an oyster shell that washed up on the Eye in Amsterdam North.
Somebody screaming on the marathon because almost 3 ships were collapsed, big cargo ships, I don't know them. But also when it's beautiful weather in the canals, I also have to work with my elbows. We're screaming to each other, but at the end of the day, we drink the beer that is left in the boat together. Yes, we are crossing the harbor actually. We have heard them screaming in the harbor. And here is the beginning of the North Sea Canal. 20 kilometers or 16 miles further the locks of IJmuiden, direction England, Britain, the ocean. We need those sea locks there because the sea level is between a half till 1 meter higher, depending on the tide. As you may know, half of Holland should be underwater if we didn't have their dikes, dunes or locks. But don't be afraid, you're on a boat now. When the water rises, the boat will rise also. Normally. That way, 1 mile from here, there are the orange locks. There behind is the IJssel Lake, where this water comes from. But most of the cargo vessels and also this Rhine cruiser you see at your left come just in front of there, to the right, into the Amsterdam Rhine Canal, direction the River Rhine, Germany, rest of Europe. Monarch Baroness. Yes, Monarch Baroness. Okay.
19th century, many artists settled on the Western Islands as they found it to be an inspiring and relaxing place for their art. Even our Van Gogh painted here. However, in the midst of the 20th century, the warehouses became abandoned, which led many squatters to claim it, and it became a safe haven and a breeding ground for art.
Yes, where are we now? In the western docks, the old western part of the old harbour. And we're going to sail into the center of this beautiful town through the Korte Prinsengracht, through the Canal of the Princes. In Dutch, the Prinsengracht. That is the outer one of the four main canals we have in the center of this beautiful town. The other ones are the Emperor's Canal or the Keizersgracht, Gentleman's Canal or the Herengracht. The inner one is the Singel. The Singel. And all these canals are dug in the form of a horseshoe, halve moon around the center. In the old days these canals were used for the transport of goods. Nowadays they're mostly used for you as a tourist to look around and for us to work. Yes, and me we work in the weekend and evening, don't have family or friends. We love our job. Where are we now? Under the bridge.
The Eenhoornsluis was built to protect Amsterdam against the high waters of the A. This dam was named after the brewery called the Unicorn on the Brouwersgracht.
Yeah, we're sailing under through in the unicorn locks. When you look up at the triangular gable, there you see the unicorn on top, the Einhorn. Sinds je open dan die drieënkige niet. Yeah, the unicorn locks. In the old days, here started the Southern Sea. But in 1932, they put a dike in the north of Holland, the enclosure dike, the Absluisdijk, and with that, that inner sea became a lake. Southern Sea turned into IJssel Lake. The water here nowadays comes from the IJssel Lake, that water comes from the IJssel River, and that water comes from the Rhine, from Germany. Danke, we say. Closing soon the Brouwersgracht, the brewery canal, the former center of the beer trade. 24 breweries were in the old days. Heineken and Amstel, they all started here. In the old days, they used the water of the canals to brew the beer. Ja, ga je gang. Ja, de Brouwersgracht, de brewery canal. 24 breweries were in the old days. Heineken and Amstel, they all started here. In the old days, they used the water of the canals to brew the beer. And there was a time in the Middle Ages that it was better for you to drink beer than to drink water, because that water had been cooked at least, had been boiled without germs in it. What a wonderful time it was. I think it was the golden age. Ja, ze zijn allemaal aan het, dat zie je overal.
On the right side you can see the North Church, Noorderkerk, designed by architect De Keizer. This is the same architect that also designed the Bartolotti House at the start of the tour. Every Saturday there is a farmers' market on the square surrounding the church.
Yes, and also on Monday morning there is also a market here.
Next to us on the right you can see the Jordaan, a neighborhood that has a turbulent and pungent history. In the past, the Jordaan was considered the slums of Amsterdam, where people lived in terrible living conditions and the canals were open sewers receiving all the filth of the city. Back then, the population of this neighborhood was around 80,000, as compared to the 18,000 that now call it home. Additionally, the Jordaan nowadays is considered one of the most loved and authentic neighborhoods of Amsterdam.
Well, the Northern Church, you can see it's a Protestant church. Only in Holland you can see what kind of church it is, because there is a rooster on top, there is een hensje over the rand. That means wake up, a new religion, Protestant church. Before here it was all Roman Catholic. Roman Catholic churches, you can recognize them of the Holy Cross on top. When there is a swan on top, that is a Lutheran church. Half a moon will be a mosque, and a David Star, Jewish of course. When you look to the left, the houses are much bigger to the left than to the right. How come? Because here to the right is the Jordaan area that used to be the poor part. Why are the houses smaller in the poor part? Because you had to pay tax on the width of the house. Steuer betalen voor des breites des houses. How bigger the bigger the house, the more tax you had to pay. We still don't like that, paying taxes. We are like the Scottish. To the right coming up with the rechts met een wijze balkonbad, smallste house van Prinsengracht, 1,5 meter breit. Die Leute schlafen dort stehen, glaube ich. Die ken je gekauft, niet ausgepakt. To the right with the white bay window, the smallest house of the Prinsengracht, 1,5 meter or 5 feet wide. You have to love each other very much when you live there.
In front of us, we see the Westerkerk, Wester Church. This is the most famous and biggest church in Amsterdam. It is also the place where both Rembrandt and his son Titus were buried. At the time, it was considered a privilege to be buried inside the church, and it was only meant for the stinking rich. This is where the Dutch saying stinking rich originated from, as odours began to seep through the floor of the church from the bodies that had been buried there. One can only imagine the odours coming from inside the church.
Well, the Western Church is under construction the coming year. Sorry for that. Shall come back next year to see it. But here is the grave of our famous Dutch painter Rembrandt. Although we don't know exactly where his body is, he died poor, in a poor man's grave, in a mass grave. At the end of his life he had problems with money and women. I know that. Now, the only thing Anne Frank heard from the outer world when she was hidden for the Nazis, the bells of this beautiful Western tower. She's writing about it in her famous diary. For the lady. Behind the bridge you see a yellow round trip boat, and there behind, next to the lunch cafe Dialogue with the green dark doors, that's the Anne Frank house itself. And next to it, ja, mit die grüne Holzene Türe neben das gelbe Rundfahrtschiff da hinten, das ist das Anne Frank Haus. Am Nummer 263.
The building with number 263 on it is the Anne Frank house. The office of her dad, Otto, the only surviving family member inside the house, became a museum dedicated to his daughter in later years. In this building, Anne Frank, her family and 4 other Jewish companions went into hiding for around 2 years, until they got betrayed and captured by the Germans. Anne Frank got famous after her tragic story was published, as her detailed memoirs about her experiences of going into hiding were recorded daily in her personal diary.
That is a song you often hear in Amsterdam. Yeah, here on the corner, that modern building is the Anne Frank Museum. This new part is opened at about 20 years ago with help of money of the film Schindler's List of Steven Spielberg. If you want to go there today or tomorrow, no chance. You have to book in advance. It's starting, the high season is starting at least 2-3 months in advance.
Yeah.
Again, the Amsterdam song. Barrack Brigade. Yes, to the right hand side you see that iron scaffolds. The Eisenwanden here, the see that iron scaffolds here on the sides of the canals. That's to protect the walls that fall in the water. Just before Corona, one wall was falling down in the water. Nobody was injured, but after investigation now we know that 25% of the sides of the canals has to be renewed the coming years. They are in a very bad condition. And we can only do that with the speed of 3 kilometers a year, so that will take decades and decades. And that's why we make temporary gardens on it. To the left, a beautiful example.
Between the house numbers 315 and 331 sits the Pulitzer Hotel. In total, there are 25 buildings that reside in between the Prinsengracht and Keizersgracht canals. The facades of these buildings have been renovated and kept to their original design. Nowadays, hidden behind the ornate facades, resides one spacious hotel that merged together several homes.
Yeah, you see a flagstaff, 10 buildings further again, a flagstaff. There behind is a complete modern hotel, the Pulitzer Hotel. But just like in a museum, it's not allowed to change the fronts. They are protected by law. It's an example of monumental care. And when you look at the entrance carefully, you see a piano hanging on the ceiling.
Our city has around 2,500 houseboats. Originally, the first houseboats were used for transportation purposes. However, during the Second World War, sailors that traveled to Amsterdam to find work did not own any homes in the city, so they decided to live on their boats. Fortunately, at the time, this was allowed, and an added benefit was that it was tax-free. Later on in the 60s, the tax-free benefits of houseboats led to the inundation of hippies who migrated to Amsterdam on their boats for the cheap living. In the 70s, however, the government put a stop to it by creating a permit system for houseboats ownership and forcing houseboats to connect to the water, gas, electricity and sewer system. Since then, the concept of water lodging in Amsterdam has changed from being one of the cheapest way to live to being one of the most expensive.
Yeah, the houseboats, yeah, prices are a little bit different now. 800, 1 million, the last one at least 1.5 million euro. But for that, you live in the center of this beautiful town, and that without direct neighbors, and on a AAA location. Every minute a round trip boat passing by. That's what I want. And wait, when you look here lives a very special person, actually, flirting with you, my ex-girlfriend. Heart of stone. Looks a little bit like Kim Kardashian. And a houseboat museum coming up at the right hand side.
On your right, you can see the Houseboat Museum. This museum is perfect if you ever wondered what it's like to live on the water, as this museum provides more insight.
Yeah, this is an Airbnb, this houseboat, and when people wave to you, that is Airbnb. And I sail it also during the morning, and sometimes they forgot to close the curtains. Ooh, that can lead to interesting situations. Oh, quite boring now. Sorry for that. Yes. Well, sometimes they ask me, Mr. Captain, how deep are actually the canals? And then I tell you, Mrs. or Mr. Tourist. The canals in Amsterdam, 9 feet or 3 meters deep. 1 meter of water, 1 meter of mud, 1 meter of bicycles. It's really true. They take out at about 10,000 bicycles every year out of these canals. Special boat sailing for it every working day of the week. Although they throw a lot of times in the water, just like gravity, it doesn't make any sense, of course. It's still the best way of transport here. Why? Because at first we don't have Dutch mountains or the Kilimanjaro, the Winterberg or the Redpass. All it is flat, although you sometimes see a flashy mountain bike here. Reason number 2, no problems with traffic jam when you ride a bike. Reason number 3, no problems with parking when you ride a bike. Parking for a bike is for free. For a car, €7.5 an hour. And since last year also at night, so 24/7. Reason number 4, I think the main reason, there are a lot of one-way roads here, especially among the canals here in the center. But when you ride a bike, you don't know the rules. One-way road. I never heard of it. And when the traffic light is on red, we call that Amsterdam green. Watch out for the bicycles. At rust,
When the lights are projected to Amsterdam green, watch out for lights are green.
Deze lights are vrij. Yeah, and for us, we have to watch out on a new phenomena. You see here the electric bike with the fat tires. We call them the fat bikes. And the government in Amsterdam wants to do something about it. Also, youngsters can drive them, and sometimes they go 50 kilometers an hour. And that's why we call them the killer bikes. Watch out for them, eh? Ja, naar de berm, dan willen we de tulip prinsenleidsen. But I also have to. But I also have to watch out is for a rented boat, mokenboat, and water bikes. You see them maybe also in a moment.
So that was an impressive maneuver. He's in a 90-degree turn in this giant boat.
Currently, we're cruising through the Leidsegracht. This canal connects the three main canals of Amsterdam's canal system.
Well, we're sailing now on the Leidsegracht, Leidse Canal. Connection canal between three of the four main canals we have in the center of this beautiful town. We're going to cross the Keizersgracht in a few moments. The Emperor's Canal, the most wide one of the four main canals. When it's frozen here, it doesn't happen that often anymore. We have also global heating here in Amsterdam, Holland. We are here skating on the ice. The last time it happened was 7 years ago, I think. Auf Deutsch sagen sie Schlittschuhlaufen, das ist schwierig für mich. In Dutch we say schaatsen. Well, when you look on top of the house, you see all that hoisting beams with the hooks on top. Die hebebalken met die haken eraan. In the old days, these hoisting beams were used to lift up the goods in the merchant houses. They did it with help of a wheel on top of the hook, and with a rope, they still pull the things in the houses like furniture. IKEA. And when Daddy has been drinking too much, he's also being hoisted up. We call that the flying Dutchman. Thank you very much, table number one. You can win a fridge. It's somewhere here down on the water. Look here at the right, two identical neck gables. We call them the twin sisters, Zwillingsschwestern. They are identical because it was cheaper to build two houses from one building plan. Twin sisters here on the corner, they have that round fingers on top. And opposite the two black houses leaning forward, twin brothers. Brothers because they have hoisting beams. I cannot explain. Under through the Leidse, we were on the Leidse Canal, and now under through the Leidse Strasse, Leidse Street, Leidse Straat, a famous shopping street, 12 shoe shops. You will sell the and if you don't like that, then you go to the right 300 meters further is the Leidse Platz, Leidse Square, Leidse Plein in Dutch, and there are all the bars, discotheques, or I have to say clubs nowadays, for later on tonight.
During our golden age, Amsterdam was the richest city in the world. The Herengracht, where we're cruising through now, at the time only the richest merchants of the East Indian Company used to live here. Other canals, such as the Keizersgracht, were more frequently used by the middle class, such as bankers. Smaller companies with warehouses settled further along the Prinsengracht. One thing was certain: the closer people lived to the city center, the more prominent they were.
A goldene kurbe, gouden bocht in Dutch, the golden bend of the Gentleman's Canal, the most exclusive part. You find here all patrician houses from the 17th, 18th, 19th century here. Nowadays mostly banks, businesses, lawyers, liars, and other criminals here. The rents are extremely high. €4,000 per floor per week. We don't live here. Not yet. Yeah, it's actually the Bahamas of Europe here. When you have a foreign company, and then you have very good things you can choose with taxes here, and that's why U2 and also the Rolling Stones have their head office here in the golden bend of the Gentleman's Canal. And to the right, or a little bit too late, there is the National Museum, the Rijksmuseum. There is the famous Night Watch of Rembrandt. And also an exhibition of Frans Hals, famous, also a famous painter in the time of Rembrandt. To the left, a smaller museum. We are fond of museum, 80 museums in Amsterdam. And this one, white sign with a black cat on it, that is the cat cabinet. That is the museum for Meow. Ja, maar eerst ook mooi bij de burgemeester. Zaterdag ga jij Jan Vassen? Oh, we rijden naar beneden, overal nog
The house with the white balcony and the marble pillars is the official residence of the Mayor of Amsterdam. This has been the official residence since 1927.
On dit qu'il y a 90 canaux in Amsterdam. Ze zeggen dat. Jo, dank je. Ik ben Anne. Om een die qu'il y a 88 canaux in Amsterdam. Sie sagen, hier gibt es 88 prächtige Kanäle in Amsterdam. There is a saying that there are 88 beautiful canals in Amsterdam. Andere landen, overleden, in Dutch, we say 88 allemachtige, prachtige grachten. Ik hoop dat de lieve van de kant gaat. And to the right, the most beautiful one, de Reguliersgracht. 7 bogenbruggen in aan de linie, Kodak klik-klak moment, 7 bow bridges in a row. Paparazzi, the boat is going on the side, there you see. 7 bow bridges in a row. That's well. You only can see it when you're on a boat. Super. Kodak klik-klak moment. To the right is the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, ungeheuer teuer, 1 cup of coffee, €9. That is without a cookie. Also famous people stayed there a few months ago, was here the boss, and he was singing to me, born in the USA. And to the left, a beautifully decorated gable existing of St. Michiel in gevecht met de dragenaar van de elefantskop, St. Michael fighting the dragon placed on top of an elephant.
I mean, there's 2
Left, Huis Willertholhuizen. House Willertholhuizen with the purple and red banners. That's a small museum where you can look inside how the rich people lived in the 18th century. I was there with my girlfriends a few months ago. Beautiful staircases there. And films, they use it for a lot of films. And then we'll be soon on the River Amsterdam, to the right, the icon of Amsterdam. Ze zijn balk rechts, de magere brugge was de Potsdamer Platz is voor Berlin, is de magere brugge Fuß. What the skinny bridge you see to the right, what the Eiffel Tower is for Paris, that is the skinny bridge to us, the icon of Amsterdam.
The Skinny Bridge is a symbol of the city, similar to how the Eiffel Tower is the symbol of Paris. This bridge was built at the end of the 17th century. Because it is skinnier and narrower than the original design, it received the name of Skinny Bridge.
See in front of the boat here, so I have a small one, and also on the bridge you see the coat of arms of Amsterdam, the flag of Amsterdam with the three crosses. The three crosses have a meaning that were the three dangers that Amsterdam had to cope with. White, or the first cross, was for the water. Amsterdam had a flood a few times in the Middle Ages. Red was for the fire. Amsterdam has been burned down twice in the Middle Ages. And black, the last color of the last cross, was for the Black Death, the pest, the plague, an illness in the Middle Ages.
The Stopera has combined the City Hall with the National Opera and Ballet Theatre since 1986. Before the building existed, the City Hall was located on the Ouderzijds Voorburgwal, which is now where the Grand Hotel is located.
There are commercial boats, but there are also rent-a-boat commercial, but there are also private boats that like this one, but the season has not yet started. It's too cold and too much rain like this morning. But in the summertime, sometimes you can walk over the boats here. Then I have to work with my elbows.
We are currently sailing on the Amstel River. Before, this river flowed into the A, where the central station is located now. Fishermen would settle at the mouth of the river, but by the end of the 12th century, a dam was built in the Amstel, right where Dam Square is located now. Fun fact, this is where the name Amsterdam is derived from, as it's a dam in the Amstel.
Oh, dan zie ik het zo. Ja, oké. Hij zit in English next time, oké? I'm going around there.
Looking from the water, you can easily understand why these buildings are called the dancing houses. They seem to be crooked. This is because the city of Amsterdam was built on a swampy peat soil. These late 17th century houses gradually subsided and became more and more crooked. Now the foundations have been replaced and the facades renovated so they can happily dance their way through the centuries to come.
Ik ga een route en aan die andere zijde zien ze van Mulkenzares, Mozenburg, bis am Ende die 7 tanzende Häuser. Amsterdam gebaut op vele faungeoze schiefsteden. Staubsaugen in einem Eck. To the right, you see from the Mulkenzares, Mozenburg till the corner, the 7 dancing houses. Amsterdam built a wooden pole, so when the pole starts to roll, the house is going to dance. The 7 dancing houses. Amsterdam built a wooden pole, so when the pole starts to rot, the house is going to dance. But it's not normal to be straight here in Amsterdam. Well, every year here goes the gay pride, the gay parade. drag queens on boats on the water. I had to work last year, and I know one thing now: these drag queens, they like balded guys with uniforms on. I had a day I'll never forget. To the right, you see that statue with the from Baruch Spinoza. You see all birds on his coat that have a meaning. That means birds of freedom. That philosopher was talking about freedom of speech, freedom of religion in the 17th century. He was telling in the 17th century that maybe God didn't exist. He was his time far away ahead. He was banned for his ideas, also from Amsterdam. Free town. Yeah, to the right there you see the flea market, the Vloomarkt of Waterloopplatz, the flea market on the Waterloo Square. You can things you don't need, like banana boxes. Well, it's open from 9 till 5 every day except Sunday. Sunday is also the day of the Lord here in Amsterdam. Well, if your bicycle is stolen, don't worry, you can buy it back here the next day for €10. Also in Holland we use an English word for this: recycling. Yeah, again, here with the crosses on top, Moses and Aaron Church, that's a Roman Catholic church, and opposite there you see the Southern Church with the rooster on top. That was the first Protestant church here in Amsterdam, built in 1614 by Hendrik de Keizer. That was the architect of town in the 17th century. The first Protestant church after the Reformation. Before it was all Roman Catholic. Sint-Antoni-Schleuse rest het Zwartse eenmalige Schleusenwettershaus in onze eigen Turm van Pisa. Torre de Pisa, Tour de Pisa. To the right, the black former Locktender's house. This is our own Tower of Pisa.
Right now, we are cruising on the Oudeschans. This is a canal that was used for defense purposes back in the day and surrounds a part of the old Amsterdam. This defensive canal is much broader than the ones found in the canal belt, as those in the canal belt were used to accommodate ships that transported goods to the warehouses within the city.
Yeah, a special warehouse coming up at the right hand side. Sie sehen das speciale Lagerhaus mit die weiße Unterseite in die grüne Lücke. Das sieht aus wie ein Gefängnis mit allemaal Griner da vorne. Das ist das alte Pfefferhaus. Pfeffer war wie teuer wie Gold früher und darum die Griner da vorne. Wir sagen noch immer in Holland wie teuer wie Pfeffer. Sie sagen Pfeffer, de Preise, glaube ich, Zahnarztpreise, Apothekerpreise. passing this narrow bridge, so I hope I won't hit it. But there you see behind the bridge with the white underside and the beautiful step gable with the green open shutters. That building looks like a jail with all bars in front. This is the old pepper house. Pepper was as expensive as gold in the old days, and that's why it needed to be protected that much. We still say in Holland, as expensive as pepper. You say tourist prices, I think.
Oh, dat is een vuilnisbak. Je hebt van die containers aan op, die zitten met een kraantje van terug.
Until the beginning of the 17th century, the Montalbaan's Tower was used as a defense tower alongside the fortress walls that surrounded the old parts of Amsterdam. Together with the Munt and Scheiers Tower, they are now the only towers that remained intact and can be seen today.
Yeah, the leaves are already on the trees. You better come here in winter for the gables, then you see 80% more of the gables. But the last building in front of the bridge, the red and yellow bricks on it, that's also a special warehouse, a big warehouse, and in the middle, in the triangle, maybe you see it later, is written WIC, W-I-C. That used to be of the West India Company. There was a West India and an East India Company in the 17th century. That were the two first multinationals in the world. Nothing left of it anymore. We had 4 wars with the English. We lost them all. From this building, Peter Stuyvesant sailed away to build New Amsterdam. But what happened? They were forced by the English to sell it for 1 guilder to the English, and nowadays New Amsterdam is called New York. Maybe you heard of that town. If you talk about Haarlem, is from Haarlem. That's a town 50 miles to the west from here. If you talk about Flushing, is from Vlissingen. That is a town 150 kilometers to the south. And you talk about Brooklyn, is from Breukelen. That's a small village 10 miles to the south from here. The most beautiful museum, I think, of the 80s, the Maritime Museum, Scheepvaartmuseum. Scheepvaartmuseum.
The Maritime Museum, or Scheepvaartmuseum, was built in 1658 for the purpose of storing weapons and navy equipment. The copy of the East Indian Company ship, the Amsterdam, that is moored in front of the building is part of the museum. The Science and Technology Museum, NEMO, was designed by Renzo Piano and opened its doors in 1997. The form of the building reminds you of the bow of a ship, but is meant as a reflection of the A tunnel that runs underneath the museum.
Dat groene gebouw, NEMO, dat is het technologische centrum van Amsterdam. De bouwer is Herren Renzo Piano, had auf der Potsdamer Platz in Berlin gebaut. Sieht aus wie ein Schiff, das auf die Wellen hineinreist, aber schon zweimal pleite gegangen. Das ist ein schönes deutsches Wort, pleite. Wenn wir sagen, nur in Amsterdam, wenn wir sagen, wir gehen pleite, wir kommen nie wieder. Daarom denken wir, es ist ein sinkendes Schiff, unsere eigene Titanic. To the right. Booking.com, that 2 high buildings is the head office of the world of Booking.com. And why here in Amsterdam? It started here in Amsterdam. 2 students started with it. They sold it to an American investors. I think they are loaded now. So 15% of your money goes that way. Openbare Bibliotheek Amsterdam. Offentliche Bibliotheek Amsterdam, the Public Library of Amsterdam, next to the Conservatorium, next to the Music Academy. The Public Library here was opened 15 years ago. Then it was the biggest of Europe, but I was there a few weeks ago, and the first 3 floors you don't see a book anymore. It's all taken over by Wikipedia Internet. En op de Mediamarkt, ik vind het toch niet leuk.
Here you can see the floating restaurant, the Sea Palace. This building is a copy of a much larger restaurant called Jumbo in Hong Kong and has been here since 1984.
Sea Palace, a copy of a Chinese restaurant in Hong Kong. In Hong Kong it was the biggest of the world, the Jumbo, but it sunk last year. It had to do something with maintenance, or it went bankrupt, I think. So the original is down on the bottom of the Chinese Sea. Speciality today, baking duck. Everywhere you see ducks swimming in town, but not here. I was there with my girlfriend a few months ago. From that to that, here is the kitchen. From that corner and to that corner goes a robot to bring the dishes, so the waiters don't have to walk that far to the kitchen. A lack of staff everywhere, also at the QR code cafes and so on. But
Hotel Amrot was originally the Scheepvaarthuis, shipping house, and was founded in 1915. It was used as an office space for 6 large shipping companies. The design of this building is based on the architectural style of the School of Amsterdam and contains a lot of Art Deco elements.
6 shipping companies were there in the old days. One of them was the Holland America line. This is actually the former coastline, and to the right is all artificial made, künstlich angelegt. It's an example that God built the world, the Dutch people build their own land out of the water. We have a problem with space here, and an example you see it later on.
The Scheierstoren, built in 1487, is Amsterdam's only surviving defense tower. It was part of the old city wall. The story goes that the tower owes its name to the wives of sailors who waved goodbye to their husbands on the tower. Schreien is an old Dutch word for crying.
Or maybe they were crying when they came back. Who knows?
This imposing late 19th century basilica is called the St. Nicolaaskerk. The Catholic Church is dedicated to St. Nicholas. the patron saint of Amsterdam. Many port cities have St. Nicholas as their patron saint, as he is traditionally the patron saint of sailors and merchants. The church was elevated to basilica by the Vatican on its 125th anniversary in 2012.
Yeah, you see it's a basilica, how you can see it on the flag. That is the colors of the Pope, white and yellow. And you see St. Nicholas standing there with his long dress in the middle, up there. And there behind is somewhere the red light district, they told me. So later on you can do your confession in the church, it's all on walking distance. This is Amsterdam.
Before we're setting course towards the A, you can catch a glimpse of Central Station, built in 1889, which was constructed at the end of the 19th century. Pierre Kuipers built the station as an entrance gate similar to the one of the Rijksmuseum. This was so one could enter the former city from the south, the Rijks, or the north, the station. Also, the Central Station stands on 8,600 stilts.
Je ziet, ze zijn twee turmen, rechts kent dan die spetertjes, links welke richting de wind herkomt. Van westen jetzt, regen van Engeland, wenn es dreht nach Osten, dan is het schönes Wetter, landklimaat, en dan komt schönes Wetter van Duitsland. Dat komt nog eenmaal, glaube ich, Samstag.
Dutch people love to cycle and do it often, but all those bikes also need somewhere to stand when you're not using them. Therefore, the Central Station holds several bike sheds. In 2023, new bike sellers were opened at the station, built under the water with space for 11,000 bikes in total.
Yes. Central Railway Station, 2000 has, the one gives on what time it is and the other one this direction the wind comes from. Yeah, they are so similar to the National Museum so that sometimes people waiting for the train in front of the National Museum. These people, we call them tourists. Between this bridge and this bridge was closed off the last 5 years because they were building a bicycle parking here. Here under the water 7,000 bicycles. You see them there going up and down. 7,000 bicycles under your feet. We have a problem with space. That's why we make tiefgarage, why we make what bicycle park is under the water, and also for cars, and also artificial made islands. It's for free to go in that bicycle parking the first day, and the second day you pay €1.35 per day, and that's something else than the €7.5 an hour what you pay by a car. Better come by bicycle. Go by bicycle here.
Back in the days, there was a field called the Gallows Field that was situated on the other side of the A. Criminals on trial and those sentenced to death were hanged on Dam Square and afterwards relocated to the Gallows Field, where they would hang for days to act as a warning for visitors of the city. The message being, behave or end up at the gallows. The gallows were located where ferries now moor.
I bring you back to the Gallow Fields, former Gallow Fields. Yeah, the ferries you see here, the ferry die ze zijn, the ferries that you see here, that is the only thing for free here in Amsterdam, I think. Yes, they go during the day every 6 minutes and during nighttime also, but then 24/7. Yeah, I was waiting for that boat, but it goes into the Noord-Hollands Canal, I think. Yes, when you look up there, we're going to stop at the Amsterdam Tower, and then when you look up there, you see you can go over the edge there. You can overview the town also there on 85 meters high. You can over the edge there. You can schalken. You can go on a swing there. That is especially for swingers. I love my job. After this terrible joke, we're almost there.
We have arrived at the end of the cruise. Thank you for choosing Amsterdam.
All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. We'll see where the road takes us. Take care.